save that for you.
Yes.
If I got down there, I'd never do it.
Well, I know that's my problem these days too. But I also know that sometimes it's hard for some people if we only have 6 chairs.
Yeah.
So is that comfortable?
That's very good.
And can you see fine?
Sure, sure.
Okay. And then Jeannie will sit here.
Hi, Steve.
Hi there. No.
I tried your colors thing for 6 months.
Did it help, or did you notice any difference? No. Okay. Do you remember what color you were using?
I was using 2 colors. All the guy.
Okay. No, we'll talk more, because if for some reason it didn't work, I would still switch to another color, just to try. So,
Got it for 6 months. Religious.
Wow.
And that's good.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You have
You can sit in.
dedication.
You good?
I've never been here before, so.
Oh, yes, yes.
French teachers.
Maybe we'll come over sometime today and I'll show you.
Absolutely. You know where we live.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, it did. Yes. Yes.
It's the dream thing.
I'm gonna go get a purse.
The dream, there's a,
Oh, I was just short of the little
Kathy,
Shelly.
Shelly.
Oh my gosh,
Shelly.
How are you? Oh, this is what it is. The dreams. Yes, she told us to come. That's right. Great to see you.
Where did you leave your shoes?
In the front,
Oh, yeah.
where it said shoes.
Oh,
There you go. Yeah, exciting, right? Nice to see you too. Hi, Tony. Don't get up. It's okay.
What's up
Good,
there?
good. You're good, Tony. Good to see you. Oh, you good, you know, moving chicken. Right now he's not. He's doing the space launch for Virgin Galactic this weekend.
You can sit by me.
Down in New Mexico. Yeah. All the way down there. So. Oh yeah, far down in New Mexico.
They're comfy?
Yeah, past Les
Can you
Cruces,
see okay?
past Truth and
Is that
Consequences.
camera?
It's in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Right, right, exactly, right. It has to be. But they've been out there 3 times to launch it, so maybe this time it will actually go.
What's that? Is it working or just not super? Just
Oh no, he's lighting it.
what?
He's doing all the lighting.
Lighting?
Yeah.
All right.
You know, you guys know that stuff. Yes, little Rita is here. There we go.
Making some money.
We're trying. We're trying. That's good. I'll sit by Shelly. Come on, Peter. last night. Hey, no, we're all happy, no doubt about it. We're so excited to hear all I think you can. I'm not going to brag about it. That reminds me of Comic Grove.
That's right.
Well, they had some school. They have, right, they have, right, they just understand. I don't work on No, we didn't have very many kids this year that came internationally. Yeah, so that was for, they had a few kids, yeah, they still got it. They made it through, and I think they'll all be like, hours off. That they understood. We all were. Yeah, we were out seeing what we needed to do. We got a lot. I know. It's very exciting. I agree. Very exciting. Your husband not so. This is Steve. Hi. Nice to meet you. Very nice. Everyone's excited. Everybody was there. It always intrigues me. Dreams. Yeah. It does.
I hope we'll keep you entertained.
Since I started, it's like 3 different conversations. You know how they talk, right? Because he's
That's good.
but it's every day. It's like today, girl, talking about Lucid Dreaming. Yesterday, another.
I tell you, Cassie's not went back home.
I know I can do that. Fairly
So he said they got a long
Okay. Yeah.
that is one of the intents.
tonight, which is so good. So we we know everybody. Well, that's quite a treat. Okay.
Good.
Quite a treat.
I'm looking forward to it.
I wonder if that's because of the. Yeah, I wonder if that's because of this.
Should be.
Steve, is the dream catcher because of your talk?
It was here.
Oh, it was here.
And did you
It
see
really
this?
is amazing.
Oh,
Yeah, but
yeah.
this is the first time I've been in a
Isn't it gorgeous, this room?
It's fantastic.
Oh.
Have you,
It's beautiful.
have you seen the outside space in the
Oh.
courtyard?
Oh, yes.
Holy moly, right?
Yeah, no,
I
it's
mean,
beautiful.
you want to have a service in there, don't you?
All
Take
the
me away.
areas- Yeah, all the areas are beautiful.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
What they've done with the place is beautiful. The last time I was having a tour here, they had a lot of javelinas. I mean, there was like 10 javelinas in the center
Oh,
of it.
really?
I was like, whoa. Yeah, Loretta, remind me I have to ask you that about, I have something eating my plant by my pool.
Oh, are they?
What's getting in there?
Something gets in my backyard too, and when it tries to get out, it breaks the grapestick things. I don't know what goes in it.
I mean, but it's like, I'm
It's
fenced.
gotta be javelinas, but how do they get in and
How
out?
do they get in?
I don't know.
My hibiscus plant, they've eaten every, not just the buds, but every leaf, like, they're just,
It's not rabbits, is it?
Do you keep that area wet?
do I keep it wet?
Is it mostly wet? Raul has taught me that if the area is kept wet, like snapdragons can live dry. And if you start watering it, then they attract abilene. They are looking for wet.
They're looking for
Moisture.
Well, her pool is wet.
Roots is wet. And water. Roots and water.
Yeah, I mean, I got a pool, so it's pretty wet. You know? It's pretty wet. You know, I don't think I can do a damn thing about that, you know?
Maybe they'll go swimming.
It's funny.
Could it be
Oh.
rabbits?
Testing, 1, 2, 3, testing. 1, 2, 3.
My backyard, but then I have deer.
Are you totally fenced in?
My backyard is, but I have a gate that wouldn't keep it.
Streaming, Anthony.
I'm getting ready to have a new gate made.
Among every
A
guy.
garden gate.
Finally got my
I had somebody come in the yard and take a big horse that I had in the base of
I don't blame you.
Yeah, I don't know.
This is their first audience. In the recluse area.
We stopped at estate sale.
The 30th, yeah.
Greetings, everyone. I want to thank you for not only the in-person people that we have, but we are streaming live. And before I start, I want to wish the highest and best for everybody who is watching, hearing my words, with love and love and through love. Today's topic is what dreams may come. Before I start, or before I get into it, I want to share a little bit about myself. Why should I be talking about dreams? After all, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of books on dreams. I brought a little beauty here. This book is from 1539. It is the first published book on dream interpretation. Now, dream interpretation goes back probably 1200 BC, but this is the very, very first book actually on the printing press. It is a reprint of Artemidorus' book from 200 AD. It is really funny because in it, it says if you have a dream that you're flying on Pegasus, you're face to face with Zeus, it means this and it means that. It is very old. Other books I have here are from the 1600s, 1700s, 1800s. There are very, very big books on dreams. And then there's these little books. This is a book from 1787, also on dream symbology, dream interpretation. So with these thousands of books talking about dreams, dream interpretation, the mystery of dreams, why am I presenting this? And right before, I want to share a story on perspective, because what I am sharing is my perspective. And the little story goes like this. Aristotle was walking along the Mediterranean, and he spied in the distance a figure, a man, going to the Mediterranean with a bucket, taking the water and pouring it into a hole. So as the great philosopher came closer, he realized it was the village madman. But Aristotle said to him, "What are you doing?" And the man looked and said, "I am going to empty all of this water so I can see the beautiful blue-green bottom." So Aristotle looks at him and says, "How are you going to get all of that water into that hole?" And the man looked quizzically and scratched his head. He said, "Great philosopher, what are you doing?" And Aristotle said, "I am contemplating the universe." And the man said, "How are you going to get all that in that little head of yours?" Everything is perspective. So I am sharing my perspective. It was 1975. I was 26 years old, and I met a Cherokee Indian, not in the hills of Sedona, but in a place called North Hollywood, California. It's not exactly known as a mecca of spirituality in the San Fernando Valley of LA. He told me all my future guidance would come in my dreams. Now, I didn't recall very much of dreams, and if I did, they seemed to be, as most people acknowledge themselves, disjointed, silly, couldn't understand. Now, I was so excited to have a dream because he said, your dreams are going to be all of your future guidance. I was so excited to have a dream, I didn't sleep for a week. Actually, I slept, but I was just not in a dreaming space. Finally, because I was so tired, I was able to get to sleep, and I had a dream. The dream was a book opened up. It was a picture book of animals. And I heard a voice pointing to one of the animals. This is Steve. Now, before I tell you what the picture was, I recognized the voice in my dream as a fellow athlete that I played with on a 6-man volleyball team. I thought we were wonderful friends. I didn't think that there was anything wrong between us, but that was my dream. So I wondered, boy, this is my future guidance. It just didn't seem nice, the picture that he pointed to. But I decided to call him up. His name was Bob. And I thought, oh my gosh. So I called up Bob and I said, Bob, is there anything bothering you about me? He goes, what? I said, is there anything that I may have done? He goes, what are you talking about? I asked a third time. I asked a fourth time. And he said, what's your problem? Are you sick? Why are you asking me? I had not really started anything in spirituality or philosophy, but out of my mouth came, I want to be a better person. Bob says, there is something that's been bothering me. My heart started beating, and he relates the following. 3 years earlier, we played on a 7-man volleyball team. 6 people played at a time, and our 7th man wasn't really a good player. So Bob says to me, do you remember what you did to Harold? And I thought to myself, I didn't know. He said, you are All-American. Everybody looked up to you. And every time Harold made a mistake, you didn't say anything. You just had a face. And now Bob's still talking. He says, when Harold and I went out for pizza, he would throw up because he couldn't win your approval. And I thought you were a real hog. Now, he put the finger in my dream. It was a hog. I welled up. I was overwhelmed. It didn't make much sense to me. How is this even possible? That really got my attention. After that, I had 5 to 6 dreams every single night for the next 2 months on every phase of my personality. My likes, my dislikes. Soon after that, I started getting telephone numbers in my dreams. I would just write down, and let me see. Basically, what I would do at night is I kept something like this. I would wake up, I would not open my eyes, I would write down, and I taught myself how to move the paper up, and then I would go back to sleep. Sometimes the most dreams I had at night was 8. I would read the scribbling. But when I got the telephone numbers, there was nothing else with it except numbers. And I was sitting there going, oh my gosh, how do you just call a number? So, being a very clever man at that time, I thought, I'm just going to ask if Bill's there. Right? So I call up the number, and somebody says, we're waiting for you. We have something for you. We want you to caretake things. And so throughout my life from 26 years old, I have been guided by dreams, I've had dreams, and I brought a couple of show and tells here before I go into my main theme this evening. I have an organization called World Research Foundation. It was in Sedona since 1985. We have 20,000 books dating to the 1400s in spirituality and philosophy. But I'm also known for having a device called the Rife microscope, one of the most powerful instruments that ever existed in science. And people would ask me how, because on the internet, nobody really knows where it is now, but in 1982, I had a dream. My dream was I was to go to the Bodhi Tree bookstore, a famous bookstore in the Hollywood area. I was to go to a certain bookcase, reach behind the books, and there would be another book there. Well, I couldn't wait to go to the Bodhi Tree bookstore, and I reached behind the books, and sitting was this book, New Light on Therapeutic Energy. Just sitting there. You couldn't see it unless you reached. Now, at that time, I was interested in Deja Vu, who was very well known for color therapy, and this book, I looked at it, and there was something on color therapy. That was great. And then 2 chapters later, it talks about the Rife microscope, this incredible device from 1933. I'm sure it may be hard to see, but this Rife microscope and the story behind it is something too much for tonight, but it is an incredible story. Perhaps we'll come back and talk about it. So I called up Dr. Harry Lusk, a friend of mine, 88-year-old physician, and I said to him, Harry, have you ever heard of something called the Rife microscope? And he goes, oh yes. When I was a young man, I'm thinking, whoa, 84, he's 88, this is a long time ago. He said there was talk about this super microscope where they discovered a cure for cancer and 60 other diseases and illnesses. And I said, what else do you know? And Harry said, well, he said, I met this other old man who actually had the microscope. And I said, Harry, how do we get in touch with this man? And Harry said, I don't know. I had the phone number many, many years ago, but it's lost. I don't know. Well, the next day I get a call. Harry's on the phone. Steve. I said, Harry, what's that? He says, I stepped out of bed, and on the floor was the man's telephone number. So as I like to joke, I said, it was probably there all the time. Because, Steve, I'd moved 4 times. Call up the number, met the man who had it, and we ended up with the Rife microscope. Now, I can relate quite a few stories. One other story, and for those of you who are familiar with a man named Manly P. Hall of the Philosophical Research Society, in the early 80s, somebody told me about him and told me to go to Los Feliz, California, because this wonderful philosopher was speaking there. So I was new to the whole philosophy, spirituality, but I went to the center. There was a little Lyceum program, which were about 80 people together in this room, and on the podium were 3 people who had studied Manly Hall for probably 40 to 50 years. There was a blackboard with different points. Mr. Hall lectured every Sunday for $1. Just incredible lectures. And they would write notes, and then people would discuss it the next Friday. So I did what I thought was right. I sat as far back in the room as you could possibly go, near the door, because I didn't know what I was getting into. A woman asked, what does point number 4 mean? And one of the moderators, Pearl Thomas, who'd been with Manly Hall for 60 years, she says, you, what does that mean? And everybody was moving their head and she was pointing to me. I don't remember what I said, but after it was over, Pearl Thomas went up and says, how long have you studied Manly Hall? I said, I don't really know who he is. I've never read his books, I don't know who. So she said, young man, you need to come to the library tomorrow. So I was there Saturday, beautiful, 80,000 volumes all behind glass. His materials go back to 500 BC. Just incredible. That night I had a dream. And the next Monday I came to Bro Thomas and I gave her the dream. And she said, oh, I've got to give this to Mr. Hall. Now Manly Hall was somebody who was not easy to just have a conversation, because people would call up his center and go, this is Plato, the reincarnation of Plato. This is Jesus Christ. I'm here. I want to talk with Manly Hall. Nobody could get through. Pearl Thomas gives my dream to Manly Hall. 2 days later, he calls me and asks me to come and meet him. And he says to me, who are you? And I said, I'm a student. And he said, what do you want from me? And again, just from guidance, I said, I want to go into your private vault. He said, okay. So I spent 6 months Xeroxing rare alchemical texts, and I found something in his vault. He's known for his book, The Secret Teachings of All Ages and Times. It is a masterpiece. If you're not familiar with it, it is really a classic. In the vault, in 1987, I found a little notebook that said, material that arrived too late to be included in the secret teachings of all ages. And I waited 40-some years, and I finally printed this notebook where he talks about how people should approach his books, why he's written his philosophy as he has. Now, why am I sharing? Today's not going to be about my dreams. I'm here to discuss and empower what I believe is more involved with the entire dream mechanism. Most of the books that are written talk about, okay, this is how you interpret. House means this, sea means this, dog means this. Some of them will look at an individual dream and make a heroic effort on that particular dream. It means this, it means that. I mean, this is really standard when you think of the dream interpretation. I have kept the dream log since 1975. So quick math would be 46 years of recording dreams, looking at them. And what I found is there is a design to the dreams. What do I mean by that? I have a couple topics here: joy, peace, love, kindness, wisdom, prophecy, God contact, divine physician, empowerment, gifts of the Spirit. What I started noticing was, rather than looking at taking one dream, they actually were coming in sequences that fit. Now, I told you, everybody has their own perspective. So please, this is not the gospel. This is merely a footprint that I was able to file the different dreams, and I wrote them in my book, which we're going to raffle off today. And again, how do I say this? This is not about me selling books. I have not brought one book here. It is about what I'm going to share. The dreams fit into these categories. So I could see that what I'm going to call as the dreamer had messages. Now, I could use this analogy. Somebody might get onto their computer because they were told that they could listen to music. And maybe they're not familiar with all the other things that you can do. You can use that computer. Or somebody takes a Mercedes and drives it like a VW, not realizing all the other things they have. But what if there is more to the entire dream mechanism? I had a most unusual dream. I was sitting or laying down in what looked like a barber's chair, and I could hear spirits say, "What dream should we give him tonight?" And they mentioned dreams, and I had every one of those dreams that night. Now, I've never read that anywhere, and lest anybody think, because over the years I've been lecturing people, go, "No, you're special, you did this." The only thing I've done different than other people, possibly, is I did what Nike said. You just do it. I was embarrassed calling Bob, a good friend, and over. The dream mechanism, there is a lot more to what this whole function is. Now, a little bit of dream history, because as you go back, Eisenhower, during World War II, mentions that in a dream, he was told that the date of a big surge, there was going to be a horrible storm. So he moved the date up, and he was successful with the campaign, and on the date that it was supposed to be, it would have been catastrophic. General Patton said he got a lot of his maneuvers in his dreams. General McClellan, during the Civil War, had a dream where the Confederate soldiers were going to be to take over Washington, D.C. And he did all the placements so that never happened. This was military. When you look at literature, some of the greatest poets of all time talk about, I went to sleep and the poetry just came through. How about something in sports? Sugar Ray Robinson, 1947, champion boxer, had a dream that the next man he was going to fight, he would end up killing in the ring. He was so unnerved, so upset with that he called his trainer and said, "We have to put off this fight. We can't do this." The trainer said, "Hey, don't worry about it. No, we have to go further. You need to call the trainer of the other boxer." Which they did. The trainer of the other boxer said, "Hey, that's interesting, but we're going to do this fight." Sugar Ray Robinson said, "No, I got to go to the boxing commission." His manager said, "You will never be allowed to fight again." I think you know where this is leading. What it's leading to is the fight took place, and in the 8th round, he knocked out his opponent, and the other boxer died. So, what is it in this information that comes through? Why is it to say the Confederate was absolutely wrong and the Union was helped? Why does this information come to individuals? I am not sure we will ever really know those answers until we're in the spiritual realm. And I think people who go too far and say, "I know, this is the right way. This is the interpretation." How often do we hear these experts come out and go, "This is how it is," until it isn't. And something else happens. So what I want to impress upon everybody here is, it takes working with these dreams. The most of us, and the most frequent question I always get or statement is, I just can't recall my dreams. I just can't recall, I don't remember, and maybe the person makes a half-hearted effort for a night or 2 nights. It's just not happening. It's like everything else. If you work with your dreamer, now a very, 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 very famous mystic Edgar Cayce had a lot to say about dreams. And while I'm saying that nothing is necessarily the gospel, it's a good jumping off point. Elsie Sechrist wrote this book, Dreams Your Magic Mirror, which gives a basic interpretation. But why I like it is, if a regular person who's not employed as a policeman has a dream of a German Shepherd, it means one thing. But a policeman who walks on, I don't know what it's called, the dog duty or the dog partner, a German Shepherd's going to have another meaning. All of us have our own life's path. We have our own relationships with the challenges that are there. So even though I am mentioning this book, it is merely something that may bring somebody in a realm of understanding. But I would encourage people to put dreams in some sort of categories that you feel comfortable with. Boy, this dream was heavy duty. I was seeking and looking. And if you have dream after dream, and one of the questions that was sent by somebody who was streaming was, what if you have a reoccurring dream that you're constantly digging things out of the sand, or you're at different locations? Your dreamer is trying to tell you something. So my hypothesis is, why don't we understand our own dreams? Now here's what I found. After each dream, without opening my eyes, I got an interpretation of what the dream meant. Now I am sharing this because my own dreamer has told me to present to other people, this is possible. Otherwise, you could sit here and go, hey, it's only bald-headed men can do it, or former athletes, you're blessed, your karma's good. I'm going to tell you right now, everybody that's here, everybody who's watching, if your karma wasn't the same, you wouldn't hear my voice right now. We all have this capability. So why don't we hear about it much? Well, because people don't work with it. We're only familiar. It was Emerson who said, when I find narrow viewpoints, I find narrow reading. And the example I've used is, if there is a set of encyclopedias, and your whole life is the letter P, and somebody says, L for love, L. Oh, L-M-N. All of a sudden, our awareness is increased. We go, oh, there's more than just P in our life. So the idea is, when you work with this mechanism that every one of us has, nobody gives you the dream mechanism. Isn't it interesting that we all have this? But now, how high can it go? Is it little things, and I don't consider it little, talking about troop movements or the most beautiful poetry in the world, the most beautiful music. By the way, half a dozen Nobel Prize winners attribute to their dreams that they were able to finish their formulas. So how high can this go? I mean, this mechanism, this direct conduit, how high do you want it to go? The only thing that I've done different is I'd say dedicated to dreaming. You go to sleep. What I was dedicated to was listening. Now, I did a post on Facebook that said, are there really geniuses or only good listeners? And I wrote down all these famous people who are known for their science, poetry, or literature. But if they didn't have it in their dreams, would they still be famous? Would you even know who they are? More than likely not. So my hypothesis is, were they geniuses or good listeners? They're good listeners. They said they would dictate their dreams so fast that it would come. Stanzas, the music, everything complete. Now, in the area of spirituality, metaphysics, philosophy, people say that they can do various things. There are no breaking of laws in this reality. What somebody believes and conceives will be a law for them. What do I mean by this? There are so many examples of people who broke the mold. They did something beyond. Royal Reich broke all the laws of science because it was impossible to achieve magnification, did he take? How do people walk across the hot coals and lava sometimes when the whole skin should ignite? Everything is done by using higher laws to supersede lower laws. Now, this is my entertainment portion for the night. This is a regular piece of paper. If it was a different time, I'd have you examine it, but it's just a paper. So, you can see it doesn't go very far. But everybody watch themselves. People at home, no problem. Are you people ready? The test lights always work perfectly. We'll see here. That flew. Here's another design. That flew. Same piece of paper. Why does that fly and the regular paper? We've used the laws of aerodynamics. We did not break any law. There are some laws in our material universe here, and we look at those and go, oh, okay, can only do this, can only do that, can only go this far, and most people accept that. It isn't all people who go, you know, I'm going to use this higher law. Sometimes people fall into it, luck into it. But the true ancient philosopher, alchemists, mystics recognize those different laws. I do not like the word higher and lower. Let's just say that there were laws that allowed greater, even that is a term, other things to manifest. How do we find out about these? Well, believe it or not, there is an old saying, if you ask for bread, you're not given a stone. I think everybody realizes the ancient book that's from. If you really work with your dreamer and your dream mechanism, again, only my categories here, but I can tell you that many things can happen. Now, this is a book by Patanjali, the Yoga Aphorisms of Patanjali. It was written around 300 AD, And it talks about all of the incredible things human beings can do when you meditate, when you have a guru, when you follow teachings. Within 24 hours, when I read this back in the 80s, I experienced every one of those things. Every single one. What did it show me? Virtually everything in our life is a belief system. If you want to, and by you, if one wants to believe that you must go to Tibet, you must have a guru, you must meditate diligently 7 years, guess what? The likelihood is you can do it. But the transcendentalists would hug trees and have illumination. Why? In our reality here, because it is about dreams, but that doesn't stop me from putting a lot of philosophy and spirituality, because that's really my intent. My intent is to empower. Let no one belong to another if they can be themselves. That was the admonition from the greatest alchemist, Paracelsus. Let no one belong to another. Am I saying it's wrong, you shouldn't have gurus and teachers? No, I certainly am not saying that. Whatever makes somebody feel comfortable, that's fine. But there's too many people who join groups and organizations, and they try so hard. This is the exact way to do it. You have to do this. You have to do that. There's a multitude of must. I gave a lecture at the Creative Life Center many years ago, and the night before, I had a dream. And the dream was I was walking along the ocean. And I was walking with all the truth seekers. And I spied in front a woman dressed in blue with a microphone. And there was a lot of fog and smoke around her. And as I got close, it was Sophia, the goddess of wisdom. And I see her there, and there was horseshoe stands with people who have written books and all the New Thought people and the lectures. And there was smoke coming out of there and fog from their breath. And I got very confused because I was thinking, if these people are kind of obliterating some of the truth, what are we supposed to do? And a big wind blew off the ocean. And I heard the following words. All that one needs is a beautiful heart, an open mind, and a humble spirit. The reason I don't have the big courses and level this and level 6 and level 4, that's all good. But guess what? A beautiful heart, an open mind, and a humble spirit. It was Paracelsus who said in the 1500s, you want to learn anything about herbs, the lilies in the field, the trees, sit humbly, cross-legged, and just listen. Just absorb. And they will reveal all of their secrets, and you will find there's no mystery to them. You can do the same thing with people. Very few people would do that because it's more difficult to sit quietly. Most of us, all of us, maybe either like to do one better or to get in a conversation. It was Pythagoras, in the school of Pythagoras in 500 BC, where the vow of silence was taken. For the neophytes, it was 2 years. For 2 years, a student could not talk back to any of the instructors. The higher grades went 5 years. 5 years without talking. Forced to listen. Forced to find out about the people that you come across. Apollonius of Tyana, who lived around the same time as Jesus, took that vow and lived it and went all through his area, just writing down. Why am I sharing this aspect? It's about listening. It is about observing. Now, it's interesting because some people I've met have often said to me, are you reading my mind? Are you climbing in there and picking? No. We all broadcast. We broadcast. There was an individual who set up a radio antenna who said that that antenna could pick up the gurgling and the energy in a person's stomach from 4 miles away. And he wrote that in 1956. We broadcast. We're constantly broadcasting. We're influencing. A great healer, P.P. Quimby, said, thoughts are like the aroma of a rose. You don't see the aroma, but it's there. And our thoughts go out and other thoughts come in. You can protect yourself from these. You can learn by spending the time. And again, what I'm sharing magically may not take place, but perhaps it will. I find after I share, people do have a good amount of dreams that come in. But I'm not going to ever interpret somebody else's dream, really, because the whole idea is we have to learn to do it ourselves. We can go through what we're going to accept and what we are going to block out. That really can be done. I tend to look more of the simplistic side rather than, gotta make a heroic effort, no pain, no gain. You know, that was my sports days. We've got to really go out there. I really don't believe that mastering any of these things is going to take any more effort than just being humble. Talking to your own dreamer. My dreamer is not your dreamer. Your dreamers, you could call it your higher self, angels, and I will tell you, in my own opinion, in these categories, the joy, peace, love, kindness, it was actually delineated where the message was coming from. You can do it too. I'm going to reiterate it again. The information coming through me says everybody can do it. You can get your own analysis of your own dream if you take a little bit more time and continue to ask, what does that mean? You're going to do that when you're awake, possibly, so why not just wait? Now, what's come to me sometimes is 16-line poetry explaining it. Sometimes words. The symbol being says, I was playing golf in a department store, and every time I was striking the golf ball, obviously, I was not getting to the hole, I was knocking glass over, and it just came. There is a grand design to our dreams. this very, very old book. This is the translation of the book from 1539. Where, if you're writing Pegasus, it meant that. The real question would be, where did that person come up with that interpretation? When we look at all of these dream books, and you know, they're really gorgeous. I mean, they're old. This particular book, take a quick look here. This is from 1717. This beautiful book in French, The Palace of the Curious. The palace being our dream area. The Palace of the Curious. I marvel when I look at a lot of these shows. I have several shows on Gaia, and there's a lot of videos on there, and I marvel at these people who have done this analysis, and this is what it means in the ancient symbols, and the ancients did this. But what I am not seeing, when they say, this is the portal, I have figured it out. This is the portal. This is the magic elixir. This is the magic doorway. Why aren't they doing it? I hope you don't think I'm critical, even though I'm slightly critical. Why are people not walking the talk that they espouse? I've shared the podium with quite a few interesting people who you would recognize right away. They're one thing on the stage, and they're quite another when you're just with them. The classic, without a name, was a fellow in San Francisco who had a radio show on prosperity consciousness. And after we went to lunch, I said, how's it going? That's tough. Having a tough time making it. You just did an hour of prosperity consciousness. Why do we accept some people as the expert? Why are they an expert? Their titles, their degrees. Why? It was Pythagoras who said, when I come across people I meet and I share information, I call them brother and sister. When I come across those who impart wisdom to me, I call them mother and father. And when I come across those who I must share and guide, I call them son and daughter. At any time, you're my son, but you're my dad. You're my son, you're my dad. He coined the word philosopher, true philosopher, realizing that information we get can come from any source. It can come from all kinds of people. It can come from children, it can come from a book, it can come from anywhere. For me, I just don't create gurus. I have people I admire. I have people I respect. But we need to believe in ourselves. So, this does tie into the guides. I want everybody to think, why don't we trust our own selves? What is it that we just don't feel that we can do it, or we're right, or this particular direction is right? That is a question to really ponder. Programming is very, very good. There's a lot of programming that is constantly going on. A lot of it has to do with salesmanship. A lot of it has to do with money making. Not saying money making is bad or good, but it is no programming. When people start realizing how unique everybody is in this room, there just is not another person like you that has the capabilities. But we kind of, let's make the other person responsible. Yeah, they gave us advice. It's their fault. These type of things, this time in the spirituality of the planet, there is this opportunity for greater awareness. That is why I'm adamant about cleaning the conduit. Now, I picked up a lot of things in my foundation from an incredible source called the National Enquirer. Has anybody heard of that incredible magazine? I used to open it up, and where they had the things on quack, color therapy, music, all these things, I go, you know what? Our foundation, we're going to explore those things. We're going to get everything that's possible there. It was a fantastic source of information. I have a device in our foundation, an original Deja Vu color device from the 1930s, 1933. Now, if you read all the literature, color therapy is quackery. Deja Vu was not very good because he wore glasses, therefore the color didn't work. I mean, you hear all this nonsense. So how do you cut through this? Well, there was an interesting healer named P.P. Quimby. Parkhurst Phineas Quimby in the 1800s. And what he found was animal magnetism came out hypnosis. God, this was exciting. He was an inventor, photographer, and he goes, oh, I like this hypnosis. So he found a man named Lucius Burckhardt, who, by all accounts, was an individual who was slow of mind. But he was the greatest subject for hypnosis I think the world has ever seen. Quimby could hypnotize Lucius, and they did unbelievable things. He even went to the point where they would go to different towns and put on exhibitions. But Quimby found, according to all the books written, you can't hypnotize somebody during a magnetic storm. It's absolutely impossible. It's because of the energy and hypnosis. And one day, they had one of their greatest performances. Lucius was, somebody had taken something, hidden it in a safe, in a boat, in a harbor, and during the exposition there, Lucius read the note that was written there. It was great. Lucius also could do all the things like a frozen body. It was remarkable. When it was over, Quimby noticed it was a Horatius electrical storm. These are his writings. He thought, wait a minute, that's just the belief system. All of a sudden, all the hypnotists could do it. Programming. Now let's take it to modern parlance. If you run a 4-minute mile, they thought in the 1950s, your joints. A human being cannot run a 4-minute mile. It's impossible. Can't do it. Until Roger Bannister, 1954. Cloudy, rainy day, runs 3:59.4. And guess what? In 40 days, 4 other athletes could do it. What were they running before? 4 minutes, 2:10. Great. Why am I sharing this? They were in perfect physical form. But their belief system, their programming, that once somebody does it, once I want you to say, you know, if that guy on the stage can do it, why can't I do it? I am going to be remiss if you leave and there's not a little inkling of you saying, yes, maybe, Yes, let's stretch a little bit. Let's see what more is possible. What more is possible? There is a yogic story of a man who lived in your city. And one day he woke up, he was a businessman, and he was taken with spirituality. So he went to his friends and said, what do I do? What's the secrets of the universe? And they said, well, you need to go to that metaphysical bookstore, down 3 blocks. So he goes down to the bookstore and he talks to them and they go, the answer is in Tibet, in the Himalayas. So off he goes to the Himalayas, starts climbing the mountain to get to them. It was the wrong time of year. He wasn't dressed properly. He collapses in the snow. Next thing he knows, he wakes up, and the yogi said to him, what are you doing? I am looking for the secrets of the universe. Do you have it? Am I in the right place? No. He says, I was told you have it. Where do I need to go to get the secret? What city are you from? He mentions the city. They said, that's where the answer is. Why? It's always us. It's always within us. Sometimes we try too hard. Another yogic story is the Chela is next to this pond, cross-legged. Teacher walks by and says, what are you doing? I am going to religiously stay here until I can levitate across this pond. Day after day, month after month, several years. And one day, the Chela comes to the teacher and goes, I did it. How long did you take? It was 3 years, 6 months. How long would it have taken for you to just stand up and walk around the pond? It isn't about the phenomena. In my opinion, it is about living a more balanced, fulfilled life. I have met so many people in my travels around the world. They can do really interesting, unusual things, but they're not happy. So for those individuals who look at this and say, I think if I have this, I'm going to be happy, you're liable to find that the people who have all of that are still not happy. I have a philosophy I've espoused for many years called LEFL. L-E-F-L. It stands for laughter, excitement, fun, and love. Now, I have counseled several thousand people in my organization who come to me with health problems. And before they even get into what their difficulty is, I say to them, when was the last time you laughed? When? Laughed. I don't remember. What do you do for fun? Oh, work. You have an ulcer from your work. That's why you're seeing you right now. What do you do for fun? Is there excitement in your life? What about love? When I check someone's levelometer, they're always devoid in either 1, 2, or all of them. People sometimes ask me why my demeanor's always up, I'm joking. I have challenges, but one thing that I found, laughter, having fun, is such a soothing balm. And for some people, I told them, you need to go miniature golfing. What? I have this problem. You need to go miniature golfing. You need to relax. You need to have fun. There's too many things that befall us in life. It's like on a daily basis. But it doesn't mean that you can't interject beauty, music, love, somewhere in your busy schedule. We created a room called a studio lobe, which was used during the ancient times where you immerse yourself in total beauty. It was in the actually 1400s. Now, Manly Hall, the great philosopher, said, one should create a space, doesn't have to be big, doesn't have to be a big room, where you have something of great beauty, something you prize. Maybe you spent a little extra to have it there. Everything has a vibration. Everything vibrates in this dual universe we have. So why not have things of beauty around? Whatever it is. Doesn't have to be the same. People say, okay, you have this statue. Yes, I don't deny that religious figures are very, very potent. But if something isn't working for any of you, trust yourself that there may be something else that you can do. This is about empowering. I remember the story of a friend who told me that her grandmother was taking I don't know how many pills, and she finally couldn't stand it. So she flushed them all down the toilet. She went back to her doctor about a month later, and the doctor says, wow, you have made a great recovery. You need to keep doing what, take those pills. Doctor flushed them down the toilet. She realized that it wasn't working for her. So I'm not going to use the word challenge you. If you're up to it, why not kind of review, what have I fallen into that is somebody else's making, somebody else's belief system, and just observe and ask yourself. Now, P.P. Quimby, after he found that he could hypnotize an electrical storm, he said, that's it. I am only going to work with things that I myself experience, that I see really works. And that's what he did. He happened to work with 25,000 people, and he argued them out of their belief system. He taught himself, by opening himself up, that he could see in any person exactly where they picked up their problem. So somebody would come, if I was PP, and say, I have PP, I have this problem. I'd say, no. I will tell you what your problem is and where you got it. If I do that, will you believe I know what your difficulty is? Well, yeah. If I go to a doctor, I have to tell them, what's the matter with me? P.P. Quimby's writings, the writings of Quimby, talk about how he opened this dimension within that he could literally see, and he could say, did your problem start right after you heard that church sermon about so-and-so, and you felt this pain in your groin area? Oh, yeah. Yeah, I did. And he would argue them out of their belief system, like a prosecuting attorney. You pick this up, this is your belief, I'm feeling what you're feeling, and yes, it's real, but it's your belief. We are creatures of programming. So, can you just wipe it all out right away and go, okay, I'm just going to eliminate all my programming? There are people who start smoking instantly. There's other people it takes time. Don't put pressure on yourself. Right now, let me take a a couple of questions. If anybody has it right now, yes.
I have two questions.
And can you just give your first name?
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth.
And I have two questions. Number one, when you have a dream about a loved one that has passed,
Yes.
is that a visit? Is that them coming through?
Well, let me ask you that. Why would you assume it isn't? We know there's a continuum. We know there's a continuum. They're still there. So why wouldn't they be contacting you?
Okay.
Of course they are.
Second question. Could dreams be also ET contact?
The dreams can be every single thing because nobody truly can say the dreams are only this. Now, again, my great source, the National Enquirer, said, well, yeah. Yeah, if I want to drive the Mercedes like a VW, it's there. This mechanism, and again, I'm going to hint at things, but I don't want to make it so adamant that you go, oh, maybe that's you, Steve. Yes, through your dreams, when that conduit is clear, and we're just being humble and not looking for scheming, communicate. That is the beautiful thing that all of us have. Nobody had to give it to us. We have a direct link with gifts of the Spirit, with the divine physician, and I will call it God content. You can call it whatever you want, higher self, spiritual self. There is no limit. And the question is it real? So I'm going to ask you, what is real in this world? Seriously, what is real? We think everything's real until somebody bypasses it and we go, oh. And the Germans have studies which show cells split apart. They communicated before the communication started. Yeah, they flipped it on here and, well, wait a minute, it already reacted before we started. We don't know this material world. We don't know all the ramifications. Do we need to, is the question. And my belief, my opinion is no. So why are we down here? Why? I will give you my assessment, if that's okay. I don't know, did anybody else have a question before? The very old teaching says, we are here to demonstrate how we manage our creative energy. That does not mean you have to be a poet, songwriter, artist. It is this energy, this abilities that we have, that we're able to create. How do we create? How are things created on this earth plane? First, the inventor thinks it in their mind, and then they create it. It is said that as above, so below, this is how the creation is. It is in the thought stream of God, and this is it. So, when it comes into the mind, it will manifest if you can hold a thought. If you can hold that concept long enough, it must manifest. Now, if I was limber and in shape, I think I would do a handstand just to say, please listen to this because we can do incredible things. You just need to stretch the imagination, which, by the way, imagination was considered the greatest gift from the Creator by all the mystery schools and ancient teachings. Because with imagination, you have no limitations. I love your question. Is something real? It's all real. Seriously, it is all real. And the more that you hold that concept, it will manifest. So, no other questions at this point? I've either put you to sleep, or you're mesmerized, or you're thinking, but just don't think too much. Remember to level. Now,
Were there questions from the streamers, Steve?
yes, I actually answered, but thank you. Yeah, there was one, actually two. One question from a streamer was, how can I remember my dreams? And this was actually something I just picked up. I had a legal. You keep this right at your side. What is the statement you're making? Talk to me. Talk to me. I'm ready. And you keep it there every night. I've worked with people in this capacity of dreams for 35, 40 years. People have told me, no, I never dream. Everybody dreams. Not only does everybody, quote, dream, but if you miss some, they make up for it in later nights. Why? What is this mechanism so important? How many people have pets and notice that their pets are dreaming, appear to be dreaming? Yeah. So this mechanism, there's much more to it than just silly things. You're riding a bicycle, it turns into a donkey, and then it's a car. It's the equivalent of the National Enquirer. When you really diligently say, I am here to listen humbly to anything given to me by the higher aspects. My higher self, spirits, guides, loved ones, God, Creator, aliens, whatever. I surround myself with always the admonition that I started with, that the highest and best manifest for my continuing journey, whatever that might be. Yes?
When you try to remember things in your dreams, you said you keep your eyes closed and you make notes.
Correct.
Why do you keep your eyes closed?
Well, I have found as soon as I open my eyes, it's a whole other sensory aspect that comes in. And when I was young, I thought, you know what, 8 dreams a night. And by the way, I was never tired the next morning. But 8 dreams, right? Why don't I just tape record? It doesn't work because I hit the tape recorder and I was talking and I lost it. I couldn't remember. I was using another sensory aspect.
I did that for many years, and the stuff that I listened to in the morning, it was just nonsense.
Well, I had the same thing.
When I wrote it down, it was fine, but when I tried to record it,
yeah, because
it's hysterical to listen to.
it is there, and this is why I say, ask for an interpretation immediately. Expect it. It will be there. Eventually, it will be there. And depending on how open you are, it can be very, very complete. Yes?
What's going on when you have a dream inside a dream and you know that you're dreaming?
It's interesting.
And you're able to kind of take yourself out of it.
Well, let's talk about lucid dreaming.
Yes, okay.
Lucid dreaming is where an individual imparts themselves and can, in some instances, manipulate or be in there. I look at that and I say, if I've got a message coming through, why am I manipulating my message? Now, I can spend a lot of times because I have 46 years of dreams. Those kind of dreams where you're dreaming and you know you're in a dream. We have so many different states of awareness. Some people call it consciousness. It is a communication, some of it, from one level of our being to another. If you don't get it sometimes, it's not that important that consciously you didn't get it. Another part of you is getting it. It is learning. It is experiencing. And when we really look and we talk about dual dimensions, other dimensions simultaneously, I don't believe anybody really can say, oh, this is the way it is. I really don't. The only time we're going to get it is when we're over on the other side, is my personal belief. Because just like Aristotle, can I get all of that in this little head of mine? Can I truly understand all existence when I come from I'm in a duality world here? But again, I always look at these things with excitement, with fun. It's exciting. This whole world is exciting. I was looking forward to the dreams. Not as much with my wife, because I love spending time with her during the day. But when I was single, boy, I couldn't wait for that dream state. Telephone numbers, prophetic dreams, what was going to happen 1 week, 4 years, 5 years in the future, all correct. When you look at the continuing, when you use this design, whatever your design is, you're going to go, wow. I'm getting a lot of things where I'm out of control, I'm trying to control. We can listen, or we can just kind of blow it off. The more you get into these dreams, the more you understand that you have unlimited potential, the more is given to you. I'm here to tell you the more is given to you. Yes.
I'm just curious, because like your list of dreams, joy, peace, love, kindness, those are all lovely,
Well, there were a lot of them here, because under the wisdom part, I told you, I had 6 dreams a night of my personality, my approaches. I didn't like my friend pointing to the picture animal, that I was a hog, but I look at that as wisdom. I always look to accent the positive. So the positive is, if I have learned that something is hampering me, would that not be a positive to correct that? Especially if in the dream I see what the end result is. See, that's what's interesting about these dreams. We can look back. I usually look from a dream starting from the back and working forward. Most people go, well, wait a minute, you wrote the dream. No, the meat is at the end, and then work forward. It was Pythagoras in his school at Crotona that he taught all of his students before bedtime to review their entire day, starting from when they got into bed all the way. And if you can remember everything you did, and even go into the dream state, people are able to recall their dreams. Why? You have interrupted the flow of time that we are under right now, this constant flow. So as you reverse and think backwards, it's like time goes, you will find amazing things. Now, I don't know if they brought a cup here. I see a cup. Deborah, can you see that? Because I did say that the people here, I would love to give a book. Are there any tickets in there?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so everybody's name is in here. Oh, questions? Yes, please.
I hear the word dream, and
I think of something, you know, like a soft wandering around this hall of curiosity. But what about when you're experiencing something vivid and jarring that it just shakes you awake in the middle of the night and you're so completely taken by whatever you've just experienced? I wouldn't even call it a dream. Maybe it's a nightmare, something frightening, something that makes your heart race. I'm sure it's still a dream, but can you talk about that a little bit?
We can.
I mean,
This is a person from the audience, yes?
I had what I used to call nightmare, and it was that kind of a jolting wake, your heart's racing, your breath is like, wow. And when I did go into self-interpretation, I realized really there is nothing, there are no nightmares. Those are really strong messages in my experience. And the message that I got out of it was very profound, and it was a wisdom, it would be in the wisdom category. It showed me myself in those dreams, in that particular dream. It showed me an aspect of myself that, so those are the dreams that I would say really look closely at, because those are very vivid ones. You kind of really remember those.
And that's the purpose. Because if somebody says, hey, look over here. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But if somebody kind of ratchets it up, hey, all of a sudden, oh. Those are very, very important. And it's interesting because looking at what someone may consider, thank you, what people might consider a nightmare, they died in a dream. Every single interpreter will tell you death is a change of consciousness. You don't generally, you're not going to die, but you're going to go through a profound, profound change. So, again, I have dream journals for 46 years of all types, including the ones. I would have said to make my hair stand up, but you know, that would be an untruth. But I could say it would stand up on my arms. So, the more impactful, the more you want to pay attention. And if they're over and over, and one of the stream people said, gosh, it's a recurrent. It's a recurrent. I find myself in the same place. You know, our guides, our spirits, our higher self has infinite patience with us. If they didn't have a sense of humor with what we do down here, they are very, very important. So there's the soft, nice ones, the kumbaya dreams, and those are nice. But I tell you, the other ones, I'd rather have. Yes?
One more question. So I've heard that when you first start to fall asleep, those dreams are just dumps of the day, information that you don't really need. And the dreams after you get in that REM state are the really informational dreams. Is that true?
Can I ask you a question? Who told you that? Where did you read that?
I don't remember the source.
It's probably good, because what do they know? I've gone to sleep, and in a nanosecond, boom! It was like somebody was saying, okay, finally, we stopped all this energy from the waking state. Boom! It's like, and then I wake up and I go, did I sleep a long time? I look and it's like 5 minutes. No. Believe, 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 believe. You know, virtually, this is what people come down. Everything is virtually a belief. You can't do this. At a certain age, you can't do that. The body can't. It's. Who says that people who can't do it? Seriously. One person has an experience. That's why this is not the gospel. But I have to give you something to lead with. So it isn't about this, it's about your own categories. It's talking with your dreamer, because your dreamer is your best friend. Your dreamer is your wisdom keeper. It's always there. So I'm going to give a book. This is a very expensive cup here. So this is to Shelley. So Shelley, yes. So after here, I will give you one of my books. And again, and now for the live stream people. Let me show here. Maria Salvatore.
Yay.
And
They get two?
Frankie Merrill. Those are for there's more people streaming too. Well, you know what? I will pick another one here. I only have one book.
Kidding.
So I'll have to be good. You'll let me lead today, and I will make it good. Did anybody have a dream that they won? No? Okay. Shannon. There you go. Are you in our local area?
Yes, I know.
Thank goodness. So I'll have a look, and I will get the information, get you another book.
Nice meeting, thank you, Shannon.
Yes.
What kind?
No, you.
Deja vu.
Yes.
Is that a dream or a blip?
Well, if I have a dream of something that is 3 years in the future, and I have it written down where it's so exact, every detail is exact. And I even had dreams of donations that were coming into my organization that they had no idea with funky numbers. Did that already happen? Did I time jump? I can't answer your question exactly other than to say there's a hypothesis that we've already lived all this time. There's a hypothesis that we can create. If you go to a psychic and the psychic says you're never going to be married, and then you say, well, screw that, I'm just going to get married tomorrow. You got married right away, so this didn't happen. But if you didn't force it, it might have happened. All of these things, I give thanks every time for my dreams. All the information. What's wrong with being thankful? You would do it for anybody here in this room. Somebody did you a nice favor, would you say, thank you?
Yes.
Right? So why not to the dreamer? Why not to the spirits? Just say, hey, what more is possible? So the Deja Vu, that is really, of course, fascinating. And feeling, boy, I was already here. Past lives, I'm obviously a very firm believer. I would tell you in my dreams that I was taken to areas of ancient philosophers and saw how they lived. And it's not like the books. So here's the question. Was what I saw real? Were the books real? And it happened because I worked with this a long time. I believe that I was able to be there. I was shown. But all of us can do that. Just don't limit yourself. Don't limit yourself to anything. Everything is possible. Yes?
You've talked an awful lot about receiving dreams.
Yes.
There's also the possibility of being able to teach or to give others. I've had many experiences of being at a site of a catastrophe where I am helping others leave to go to other realms.
Yes.
So we have the capacity to also be able to give our compassion and our love
Absolutely.
and our teaching
Yes.
and our dreams also.
And I have it in here, what you talked about I put under love. I have one or two other categories, but every one of us are healers. I said brother, sister, mother, father. We all have these different capacities. And that's why, thank you for sharing that. There just is no limit to what is possible. But I had made a vow when I got into the esoteric metaphysical field. I will not interfere with any individual unless they give permission. You gave permission when you walked through that door. The streamer, the people streaming, they gave permission when they signed up. But when I leave this room, no matter who I cross, no matter what I see, it reminds me of this last story. A student, a cello, saw his master ready to go on a journey. Master, master, can I go with you? You can go with me if you promise not to say one word about anything you see or hear. Will you do that? Oh, yes. So off they went. And they came upon a river, and there was a little boy lying face down in the stream, perhaps ready to die. And the student was sure the master was going to run over there and save the child. But he didn't. He walked on. And the student was miffed, and they came to the ocean, and there was a ship crashed on the rocks. People screaming, people dying. He expected his teacher to go out and save people. And he didn't. And the student was so upset, said, I can't believe it. I'm never going to follow you again. I don't understand. I want to know why. And it reminds me always of the movie Kung Fu when I was young. Caine, Master. The teacher says that little boy was going to grow up and be the cause of millions of people's death. But nature, whatever's in the universe, decided that that child was not going to do that. That ship you saw was a pirate ship that raided and killed many people. You reap what you sow. Now, what is the moral of that? People can say, well, that doesn't make any sense. How is this person deciding who should live, who should... No, you do not interfere unless you get that strong message of clarity to be involved. And you will. When you're humble, when I said a beautiful heart, it really is a heart full of beauty. When you're in that zone, when you're in that frequency, you're a part of everything you understand a lot more than our limited capacity now. When you're thinking from your ego is different than when you're channeling. But you can channel and the ego can stop you. So again, I want to thank all of you for coming out. This is the first time I've been lecturing with people for about 3 years. So I appreciate faces and the energy. I want to thank all the people who are watching the streaming. And again, I will finish with this. With love, in love, and through love, may the highest manifest for each of you on your continuing journey to your own enlightenment. Thank you so much. Blessings to all of you.
We're fine with each other. I love this. It's so good.
It's probably still live. So I want to definitely get your information.
Except for that one.
Yeah.